So obviously many of y'all are familiar with Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard is a fantastic progressive who obviously had made her name leaving the Democratic Party, or not leaving the Democratic Party so much as leaving the DNC, which is the Democratic National Committee. It was significant for her to leave the Democratic National Committee because she left while she was the vice chairwoman. She also left in the midst of being elevated as the party's quote unquote next up. Essentially what it looked like is that after Hillary Clinton ran for office and was supposedly supposed to win, that Tulsi Gabbard was supposed to be next in line. That's basically how it was shaping up. Now, her words became famous after she left the party. During an interview, she was asked about leaving the party and where she stood and how she felt about the Clintons. And she said verbatim, "The Clintons don't scare me," which echoed across progressive circles. Since leaving the party, very much so like Nina Turner, very much so like many people who have left the establishment wing of the party, not since leaving the Democratic Party, but leaving the establishment wing of the party, or as Nina Turner likes to call it, the plantation, the Democratic plantation. Still one of my favorite interviews by her. She became more and more progressive on every issue. Even before that, she was good on key issues like the LGBTQ community, which she has not introduced legislations for to extend civil rights protections to the LGBTQ community. And although she had some controversy surrounding something that she said when she was 21 years old, her voting record speaks for itself. Obviously been fantastic on women's rights issues. Now, why am I telling you all this? I'm telling you all this because the DNC is indeed making a concerted effort to keep Tulsi Gabbard off the stage. I mean, think about it. Why else would they have been telling us that Beto O'Rourke was polling, quote unquote, ahead of Tulsi Gabbard, and Beto O'Rourke hadn't even announced yet? Think about it. They've even tried to convince us. Amy Klobuchar and those, like, you know, Kirsten Gillibrands of the world have been more popular, are garnering more support, more legitimate support. And, which is weird, right? Isn't that a little peculiar to you? Now, here's why it should be peculiar. Tulsi Gabbard has been on the Late Show with Stephen Colbert, has been a frequenter of MSNBC as of late, had a CNN town hall, went on The View. It's been really all over television. Isn't that interesting? They haven't brought on Amy Klobuchar to that degree. Senator Warren, you could make a case that Senator Warren is more popular than Tulsi Gabbard. And yet, they haven't brought her on all these different shows. Why is that? Well, the truth of the matter is, no matter how controversial, quote unquote, saying things like we shouldn't be invading countries and setting up regime changes based off false flag operations, I don't think that's controversial at all. Saying verified facts like, yeah, we were funding Al-Qaeda, people don't know. That's controversial, but people don't know that we're the reason that Al-Qaeda exists. They were originally a rebel group that we trained. They use our training. Same thing with ISIS. They use our training regiments to prepare their rebels. So like what Tulsi said isn't like extraordinary, but it's extraordinary to people who have never heard it before because our government has done such a fantastic job basically creating disinformation and misinformation. And if not that, then shielding us from the truth. The truth of the matter is Tulsi is very popular. The truth of the matter is these shows have some of the highest ratings while Tulsi is on. Why? Because the things that she is saying is compelling. They're compelling one way or the other, whether you like them or dislike them. But at the end of the day, the support that Tulsi has is much more solid than the support of 95% of the other candidates. The only exclusions I would make to that are Bernie Sanders, obviously, Joe Biden in the beginning of his campaign, because he will fizzle. He will fade into the night, as he always does, and like he did in his last two campaigns. Elizabeth Warren, I would say, has more solid support. And Beto's kind of an eh. Kamala is more popular, or at least more well-known, because they have made it so. That doesn't mean she's more well-liked. That doesn't mean she's more popular, like legitimately popular. Like, it doesn't mean she has a better chance of winning in New Hampshire, Iowa. And New Hampshire, Iowa, I'm missing one of the first elections. But anyway, it doesn't mean she has a better chance of winning. It just means that they've been pushing her down our throat, and all these polls are going to quote whatever the establishment, for the most part, tells them to quote. They're using every mechanism they can to stop Tulsi Gabbard from getting on that debate stage, from stopping Tulsi Gabbard from pushing candidates left, from having the conversations that need to be had, from basically, I mean, like I said, her domestic policy is like Bernie Sanders, but it takes a few steps further in a lot of ways, like addressing election justice, which Bernie Sanders hasn't spoke of substantively. Foreign policy, introduced the Stop Arming Terrorism Act, Stop Financing Terrorism Act. No one promoted it. I think Ro Khanna might have been the only one that promoted it in the House. But he didn't even promote it. He just co-sponsored it. Things like that are why the Democratic Party is trying to stop Tulsi from being popular, almost to the degree that they're willing to concede giving attention to Bernie Sanders if they believe it'll divide the progressive vote. Now, Tulsi's campaign got in contact with me and let me know that they have about 38,000 individual donations. They need 65,000 to get on that debate stage. Even though they have been successful and people have been donating repeatedly, even though they have raised probably more money than they were expecting to raise, especially with all the negative publicity and then the silencing. And if they're not getting negative publicity, then they're being silenced in other ways. Nothing they ever do is an achievement, but everything that everybody else does is an achievement. Is welcome to the establishment. But they still need to hit that $65,000 mark. You can donate $1. You can donate $5. And if you're a Bernie Sanders supporter, I suggest you get on the ball to donate to her campaign. I'm going to tell you something that other people aren't going to tell you. I'm going to tell you something that other journalists aren't going to tell you. At this point, Bernie needs Tulsi during this election more than the other way around. Once Tulsi hits that debate stage, it will be beneficial for both of them. I'm going to explain to you why. Bernie Sanders is a phenom when it comes to campaigning. We've seen it. His popularity is unrivaled. I think that we can all agree on that. Tulsi would even agree on that. It's something to be enamored with, because it's based off of his revolution that he started, not necessarily Bernie Sanders. However, because of that, the DNC and because of the changes that were sparked by his revolution, one of which being the popularity of Tulsi Gabbard, another of which being the DNC rule changes, another of which being the DNC for a lawsuit, another of which being the condemnation of certain political figureheads that are no longer having the power and pull they wish they had in the past because they just can't pull the wool over our eyes anymore. Knowing all these things, well, the Democratic Party has to do something about that. And people they're like, oh, they're going to split the establishment vote up. Yeah, they are. But not as much as you might think. Because at the end of the day, they're only going to have 1 to 2 anointed ones, right? That's probably going to be either Kamala and Beto or Kamala and Joe Biden. One of those three are going to win the presidency. One of them. And once again, I don't think it's going to be Biden, because he just proves every single time to be drastically less popular from the time the election ends, from the time that when the election starts. It's people don't even remember that Biden ran for office, because it was just such an unmoving campaign. It wasn't anything to be impressed by. So you have those three. Those are the promised ones. So why are the establishment pushing for all these other people? The primary is not a winner-take-all situation. It isn't. It isn't like the Electoral College. The primary is not a winner-take-all situation for a reason. Because it was said that they want to prevent people like Bernie Sanders from winning. And unfortunately, I believe it was Tad Devine in 1967 who said this, who used to, if it wasn't Tad Devine, it was somebody else. But it was basically someone who we know is establishment and has been for quite some time. He didn't say Bernie Sanders at that time. He said it was something like, we don't want another FDR in office. That's why superdelegates were created. So fast forward from 1997 up until this point. Y'all notice something interesting about all the people that they're pushing? If you look at New York, you have Kirsten Gillibrand, who is a senator. So she would pull a lot of delegates away from Bernie Sanders. A lot. Like, it's unfortunate, but when you win senator in a state that big, it does bode well. She may not win the state. I think Bernie still wins it. I think Bernie even still wins upstate. But Lord Jesus, she's gonna pull a lot of delegates. She's gonna pull a lot of them because New York has a lot of delegates. In Florida, Andrew Gillum is probably going to be announcing a lot of delegates at stake in Florida as well. Interesting. Minnesota, a state that Bernie won handedly. Senator Klobuchar, who won pretty decisively as well, is running. And Minnesota has a kind of a weird amount of votes. They have a weird amount of electoral delegates. California with Kamala Harris, Beto O'Rourke, who isn't even popular enough to beat Ted Cruz, but is popular enough to take a significant amount of votes away from Bernie Sanders on Super Tuesday. If Stacey Abrams announces, which way do you think Georgia is going to vote? Which way do you think Atlanta is going to vote? Once again, taking significant delegates away from Bernie Sanders. All of these states have one thing in common. A lot of delegates, of pledged delegates that will be, not potentially, not might be, I'm telling you what I know, they will be siphoned off from Bernie Sanders in a way that all of them they may not compete in any other state around the country, but they will compete in their state. They will pull at least 15% of the votes, and therefore they will be able to keep their delegates. Now, maybe in Georgia, one state, that doesn't add up to much. Maybe in New York, one state, that doesn't add up to much. But you add up New York, California, Minnesota, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. Now you have a problem. Now, it's a little bit of a blurred line. Now, the establishment starts making up excuses as to why Bernie Sanders doesn't have enough to get him over the hump and win 50% of the pledged delegate vote. Now we have to go to the convention. Now it's a contested convention. Why? Because Stacey Abrams can give her delegates to whatever establishment candidate of her choosing. Amy Klobuchar can do the same thing. Oh, excuse me. I forgot about Elizabeth Warren, Massachusetts. Huge state. Necessary win. Can give her delegates to the establishment of her choice. Kamala Harris will win a good amount. Not enough. I don't think she'll win California, but she'll win enough. Okay? She'll win enough to make a difference. Beto O'Rourke, whatever the hell the establishment and his donors tell him to do. All of a sudden, you're seeing someone either pass Bernie Sanders or keep up with Bernie Sanders enough so that it is now a contested convention that they will not allow Bernie Sanders to win on the first go around. I witnessed it. I saw it from my own eyes where he won the last convention. He won the last convention. And now we're going to have to see if he goes to this convention coming up, we're going to have to see, okay, are they going to pull the same nonsense again? I guarantee you they will pull the same nonsense again. And so because of that, the super delegates on the second vote will get to pick whoever the hell they want to. This is why Bernie Sanders needs Tulsi Gabbard. Because a lot of people who are undecided in those states, and don't get me wrong, Bernie Sanders has some people that he's still upset a little bit. In states with open primaries, where Republicans and independents will, in my opinion, especially if she gets on that debate stage, will vote for Tulsi Gabbard. Even in states with closed primaries or semi-closed primaries like North Carolina, I could choose to vote for Tulsi Gabbard and just not vote for a Democrat. And there are a lot of people who will. Or not vote for a Republican if you're a Republican. And there are a lot of people who will. So for Bernie, the ideal situation is for Tulsi to get 15% every single election and hang in for as long as humanly possible while exposing the rest of the establishment on the way, because she will and she has done so already. And then if she so chooses, which I imagine she would, which is why her and Bernie talked, I imagine she would, she can hand off her delegates to Bernie. And all of a sudden, he's at 15% or 50% of the delegate count. And he doesn't have to go to a contested convention. It doesn't matter if they hand out their delegates to whoever. If he reaches 50% and those pledged delegates from Tulsi go to Bernie, all of a sudden, you're looking at 8 to 12 years, 8 to 16 years, really, of progressivism. Getting Tulsi on that debate stage is priority number one, because it may prevent the plan that I clearly see unfolding. And I think that you all would agree. It may prevent that plan from taking place and coming into fruition. And then it may set us up for literally decades of progressivism. All you have to do is go to her website right now. Donate $1. Donate $1. Show that you support the movement, not that you merely support an individual man or a woman. Because if the movement is to have a guaranteed victory come July in Wisconsin, where the Democratic National Convention is, the movement is to have a guaranteed victory, Tulsi Gabbard must be allowed to debate. And you can help that happen. Go to tulsigabbard.com and you can donate $1, donate $5, whatever. Let's get her to 65,000. She's at about 40,000 right now. So if every person who watches this video, every new person who watches this video donates, I guarantee she'll hit that debate stage. And we get to see her push all of these candidates further left on a plethora of issues. And the more democracy, the better. TulsiGabbard.com. Go donate right now. What are you waiting for? Go donate right now. Have you donated yet? All right, I'm going to check on it. Peace. Thank you for watching that segment of Mi Casa es Su Casa. Help us reach our goal of 500 patrons. You can do so by donating as little as $1 by clicking on the Patreon link in the description below. Don't forget, join us on Roku and JustNForm. You can follow us on Twitter and Facebook as well. And remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.